It was February 18th, 2026, at 2:47 a.m., when a crushing weight of conviction I couldn't shake drove me to the valley vista outside my home, and there, surrounded by rolling hills that stretched endlessly under a canopy of stars so dense they looked like diamond dust scattered across black velvet, the air cold enough to turn my breath into clouds of vapor, Jesus appeared before me and said that the Lord's Prayer, the one prayer he personally taught us to pray, is being prayed wrong by 99% of Christians, and that this error is blocking their breakthrough, severing their connection to the Father, and rendering their prayers powerless. Not everyone who sees this message is meant to see it. Some will scroll past, some will ignore it. But you've been marked. You've been chosen to receive this revelation tonight. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. What I'm about to share with you over these next few nights isn't comfortable. It isn't easy. It goes against everything you've been taught in Sunday school, everything you've heard from the pulpit, everything you think you know about prayer, but it's the truth, and the truth, as Jesus said, will set you free. Before I continue, I need you to do something. Right now, in the comments below, I need you to type out your prayer request. Don't hold back. Don't be ashamed. Whatever you're facing, financial devastation, a prodigal child, a marriage on the brink of collapse, a diagnosis that's stealing your hope, an addiction you can't break, type it out. Because what I'm about to reveal to you is going to change how you pray about that very thing. And I believe, no, I know, that Jesus brought you to this video at this exact moment because he's ready to answer that prayer. But first, you need to learn how to pray it correctly. And listen, if you're serious about your faith, if you're truly hungry for more of God, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel isn't for casual Christians. It's not for people who want their ears tickled or their comfort zones protected. This is for true believers, for the remnant, for those who are willing to have everything they thought they knew turned upside down if it means getting closer to the Father. Many of you know me as Jonathan Rumi, the actor who portrays Jesus in The Chosen, and I want to be clear, I'm not Jesus. I'm just a broken man who's been given the extraordinary privilege of portraying him. But that very privilege, that daily immersion in his words, his character, his heart, has opened my eyes to things I never saw before. It's created a hunger in me that can't be satisfied by Sunday morning services and bedtime prayers. And it's that hunger that drove me out into that valley at nearly 3 in the morning, desperate for more, desperate for truth, desperate for him. The temperature that night was hovering around 38 degrees. I could feel it seeping through my jacket, through my jeans, settling into my bones. The grass beneath my feet was wet with dew, soaking through my shoes. In the distance, I could hear the occasional call of a night bird, the rustle of some small creature moving through the brush. The hills rolled away from me in every direction, dark shapes against a slightly lighter sky, and above it all, those stars, millions of them, billions of them, so bright out there away from the city lights, that I could actually see the Milky Way stretching across the heavens like a river of light. I had come out there to pray, to really pray. Not the quick, distracted prayers I'd been offering up lately, squeezed in between takes on set or muttered while sitting in traffic. I needed to pray the way Jesus prayed, alone, in the wilderness, in the deep hours of the night when the world is quiet and the veil between heaven and earth seems thinner. So I began the way I'd been taught, the way millions of Christians begin every day. Our Father, who art in heaven. And that's when everything changed. The air around me shifted. I don't know how else to describe it. It was like the atmosphere itself became charged, electric, alive. The temperature seemed to drop another 10 degrees in an instant, and my breath caught in my throat, not from the cold, but from the sudden, overwhelming presence that filled that valley. He was there. I didn't see him at first, not with my physical eyes, but I felt him with every fiber of my being. And then slowly, like dawn breaking over those distant hills, he became visible, standing there, perhaps 10 feet in front of me, his form somehow both solid and translucent, both fully present and not quite of this world. His eyes, I'll never forget his eyes. They held such sorrow, such disappointment, but also such love, such desperate, aching love. "Jonathan," he said, and his voice was like nothing I can adequately describe. It was gentle but powerful, quiet but all-encompassing, and it seemed to come from everywhere at once, from the hills, from the stars, from the very ground beneath my feet. "Yes, Lord," I whispered, and I was trembling. Not from fear exactly, though there was an element of that, but from the sheer weight of his presence, the holiness of it, the otherness of it. "Do you know what you just did?" he asked. I was confused. I I was praying, Lord, the prayer you taught us. Were you? He stepped closer, and I could see his face more clearly now. The face I'd studied for years, tried to embody on screen. But this was different. This was real. This was him. Or were you reciting words you've memorized, words you've said so many times they've lost all meaning? I don't understand, I said, though even as the words left my mouth, something in my spirit was beginning to grasp what he meant. Our Father who art in heaven, he quoted back to me, and there was such sadness in his voice. Do you know how many millions of my followers will say those exact words today, tomorrow, every day? Do you know how many of them will rush through them, checking off a religious obligation, never once stopping to consider what they're actually saying? The wind picked up then, sweeping across the valley, bending the grass in waves, and I pulled my jacket tighter around myself. When I gave my disciples that prayer, Jesus continued, I wasn't giving them a script to memorize and recite. I wasn't giving them magic words to repeat mindlessly. I was giving them a template, a framework, a way of approaching the Father that would revolutionize their prayer lives and their relationship with Him. He gestured to the hills around us, to the vast expanse of creation spread out under the stars. Look at all of this. Every blade of grass, every stone, every star burning in the heavens. The Father knows them all. He sustains them all. He cares for them all. And yet when you come to Him in prayer, you rush through words you don't mean, asking for things you don't really believe He'll give you, going through motions that have become as empty as... He paused, reaching down to pluck a dried, dead stalk of grass from the ground. As empty as this? I felt something break inside me. Because he was right. How many times had I prayed the Lord's Prayer without really praying it? How many times had I rattled off those familiar words while my mind was somewhere else entirely? Show me, I said, and my voice cracked with emotion. Please, Lord, show me the right way. Jesus smiled then, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. That's why I brought you here tonight, Jonathan. That's why I've been calling you out into these wild places, away from the noise and the distractions, because what I'm about to show you will change everything. But you have to be willing to unlearn what you think you know. You have to be willing to let go of the religious traditions that have made my words of no effect. He began to walk, and I followed him, our feet crunching through the dew-soaked grass. We moved along the ridge of the valley, and with each step, the vista opened up wider before us, more hills, more sky, more stars. When I said, Our Father, Jesus began, I was inviting you into intimacy, not formality, not religious duty, intimacy. The word I used in Aramaic was Abba. Do you know what that means? Father, I said, or Daddy. Yes, he said, and his voice was warm now, filled with affection. It's the word a child uses when they run to their father with scraped knees or exciting news, or simply because they want to be held. It's personal, it's intimate, it's trusting. But how many Christians pray Our Father while keeping Him at arm's length? How many approach Him with fear and formality instead of the confidence of beloved children? We stopped at a point where the valley dropped away sharply, and I could see for miles in every direction. The wind was stronger here, whipping my hair across my face, and I could smell the earth, rich and loamy, mixed with the clean scent of night air. Watch, Jesus said, and suddenly I was seeing something else. A vision overlaid on the physical landscape before me. I saw a massive church, thousands of people in the pews, and they were all reciting the Lord's Prayer in unison. But their voices were hollow, mechanical, lifeless, and above them I saw their prayers, or what should have been their prayers, rising up like smoke. But instead of ascending to heaven, the smoke dissipated immediately, going nowhere, accomplishing nothing. They're saying the words, Jesus said quietly beside me, but their hearts aren't in it. They're not actually talking to the Father. They're performing a ritual, and the Father... His voice broke slightly. The Father is waiting. He's listening. He's longing to hear from His children, but all He's getting is empty repetition. The vision shifted. Now I saw a woman alone in her kitchen, tears streaming down her face. She was praying the Lord's Prayer, but she was really praying it. She paused after Our Father and whispered, Abba, Daddy, I need you. She lingered on, Give us this day our daily bread, and poured out her fears about how she was going to feed her children. She meant every word. She wrestled with every phrase, and I saw her prayers. They rose like incense, like a sweet fragrance, straight to the throne of God. And I saw the Father lean forward, attentive, moved, already preparing his answer. "Do you see the difference?" Jesus asked. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. "The prayer I taught isn't meant to be recited," he said. "It's meant to be prayed, really prayed. Each phrase is a doorway into deeper communion with the Father. Each line is an invitation to pour out your heart, to align your will with His, to enter into the reality of His kingdom." He turned to face me fully, and in the starlight his eyes were blazing with intensity. "Jonathan, 99% of Christians are praying this prayer wrong. They're treating it like a good luck charm, like a religious obligation, like something to get through so they can move on with their day. And their prayers are bouncing off the ceiling. They're wondering why God feels distant, why their breakthroughs aren't coming, why their faith feels dry and dead. And all the while, the Father is waiting for them to actually talk to Him, to really pray." A shooting star streaked across the sky above us, and in that moment I felt the weight of what he was saying settle over me like a mantle. "There are people watching this right now," Jesus said, and though he was looking at me, I knew he was speaking to you, who have been praying this prayer their entire lives and have never once really prayed it. They've said the words thousands of times, but they've never entered into the reality of what those words mean. And tonight that changes. Tonight I'm going to teach all of you, how to pray the way I intended, the way that moves heaven, the way that changes everything. The wind died down suddenly, and the silence that followed was profound. Even the night birds had stopped calling. It was as if all of creation was holding its breath, waiting. "But I'm warning you," Jesus continued, and his voice took on a harder edge. "This isn't going to be comfortable. I'm going to challenge everything you think you know about prayer. I'm going to expose the religious traditions that have made my words powerless in your life. And some of you aren't going to like it. Some of you are going to get offended and click away. But those of you who stay, those of you who are truly hungry for more, you're going to experience a breakthrough in your prayer life that you never thought possible." He reached out and placed his hand on my shoulder, and I felt warmth flood through me despite the cold night air. "Tomorrow night," he said, "meet me here again, same time, and I'll show you more. I'll take you deeper. But for now, I want you to do something. I want you to go home, and I want you to try to pray the Lord's Prayer the way you always have. And I want you to notice, really notice, how empty it feels, how mechanical, how dead, because until you recognize the problem, you can't receive the solution." And then, as suddenly as he had appeared, he was gone. The presence lifted, the air returned to normal, and I was alone in that valley, under the stars, trembling and weeping and forever changed. I stood there for a long time, I don't know how long, trying to process what had just happened. The hills around me were just hills again, the stars were just stars, but I was not the same person who had walked out there a few hours earlier. When I finally made my way back home, the sky was just beginning to lighten in the east, and I knew with absolute certainty that I had to share this, that this message wasn't just for me, it was for you. For everyone who's been praying and wondering why nothing's changing. For everyone who's been going through the motions of faith while their heart grows colder and their hope grows dimmer. Listen to me. If you've made it this far, you're marked, you're chosen. This message is for you. And tomorrow night, in the next part of this series, I'm going to share what Jesus showed me on the second night. It's going to get more intense, more challenging, more transformative, but I need you to do something right now. I need you to commit. Comment below, "I'm ready for the truth." That's it. Just those 5 words. Because that simple act of commitment is going to position you to receive what God wants to give you over these next few nights. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Because this isn't the last time Jesus is going to meet me in these wild places. This isn't the last revelation he's going to share, and you need to be here for all of it. The prayer you've been praying your whole life is about to come alive in a way you never imagined possible. Are you ready? The next night, February 19th, 2026 at 2:43 a.m., I found myself walking back through that same valley, but this time everything felt different. The air was heavier, thicker somehow, as if the atmosphere itself was pregnant with anticipation. The temperature had dropped to 32 degrees, right at freezing, and a thin layer of frost was beginning to form on the grass, crunching softly beneath my boots with each step. The stars were even brighter than the night before, if that was possible, and a sliver of moon hung low on the horizon, casting just enough silver light to make the rolling hills visible as dark, undulating shapes against the sky. I had done what Jesus asked. I had gone home and tried to pray the Lord's Prayer the way I always had, and he was right. It felt hollow, empty, like speaking words into a void. For the first time in my life, I truly understood what it meant to have a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. I had been going through the motions, and the realization had shaken me to my core. All day, I couldn't focus on anything else. Between takes on set, during lunch, driving home, all I could think about was getting back to that valley, getting back to him, learning what he wanted to teach me. My breath formed thick clouds in front of my face as I walked, and I could feel the cold seeping through my layers despite wearing more clothing than the night before. An owl hooted somewhere in the darkness, and I heard the distant yipping of coyotes echoing across the hills. The smell of sage and wild grass filled my nostrils, mixed with that peculiar scent that comes just before a frost. Clean, sharp, almost metallic. I reached the same spot where he had appeared the night before, that ridge overlooking the vast expanse of the valley, and I stopped, waiting. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Lord," I whispered into the darkness, "I'm here. I'm ready. Show me more." For a moment, nothing. Just the wind moving through the valley, just the stars wheeling overhead, just the cold and the darkness and my own trembling anticipation. And then he was there. This time his appearance was more sudden, more dramatic. One moment I was alone, and the next he was standing directly in front of me, so close I could have reached out and touched him. His presence was even more powerful than the night before, and I actually staggered backward a step, overwhelmed by the sheer holiness radiating from him. "You came back," he said, and there was approval in his voice, warmth that seemed to cut through the cold night air. "I had to," I said. "Lord, after what you showed me last night, I can't go back to praying the way I was. I can't unsee what I've seen. Please teach me how to really pray." Jesus smiled, and even in the dim moonlight, I could see the joy in his eyes. "That's what I wanted to hear, Jonathan. That hunger, that desperation, that willingness to let go of the old ways." He gestured to the landscape around us. "Do you see these hills?" I nodded, looking out at the rolling terrain stretching endlessly in every direction. "Each one represents a different aspect of the prayer I taught," he said. "And tonight, we're going to climb the first hill together. We're going to explore what it really means to pray, 'Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.'" He began walking, and I followed, moving down from the ridge into the valley itself. The frost-covered grass sparkled in the starlight like scattered diamonds, and our footsteps left dark trails behind us. The temperature seemed to drop even further as we descended, and I could feel the cold biting at my exposed face and hands. "When you pray, 'Our Father,'" Jesus began, his voice carrying clearly in the still night air, "you're not just acknowledging that God is a father, you're declaring your identity as his child. You're stepping into sonship, into daughterhood. You're claiming your inheritance, your position, your place in his family." We reached the bottom of the valley and began ascending the nearest hill. It was steeper than it had looked from above, and I found myself breathing harder as we climbed, my legs burning with the effort. "But here's what 99% of Christians miss," Jesus continued, not even slightly winded despite the climb. "They pray 'Our Father' while still living like orphans. They say the words, but they don't believe them. They approach God as if they're beggars hoping for scraps, instead of children coming to a Father who delights in giving good gifts." We reached the top of the hill, and Jesus stopped, turning to face me. Behind him, the valley spread out in all its nighttime glory, and above him, the stars blazed with impossible brightness. "Watch," he said. "I'm going to show you something." The vision came over me again, but this time it was more intense, more vivid, more real than anything I'd ever experienced. I wasn't just seeing it, I was in it, experiencing it with all five senses. I saw a man, middle-aged, worn down by life, shoulders slumped with the weight of years of disappointment. He was in his bedroom, kneeling beside his bed, and he was praying the Lord's Prayer. But when he said, "Our Father," I could see into his heart, into his thoughts, and what I saw broke me. He didn't believe it. Not really. He was saying the words, but in his heart he was thinking, "God is too big, too important, too holy to really care about me. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I'm just going through the motions because that's what Christians do." And I saw his prayers. They rose up a few feet and then fell back down, never reaching heaven, never reaching the Father's ears, because they weren't prayed in faith. They weren't prayed from a place of sonship. They were prayed from a place of orphan thinking, of unworthiness, of religious obligation. "Do you see?" Jesus asked, and his voice was thick with emotion. Do you see what the enemy has done? He's convinced my people that they're not really God's children, that they don't really have access, that they're not really loved, and so they pray powerless prayers from a position of powerlessness. The vision shifted, and now I saw a woman, young, vibrant, full of faith. She was in her car, stuck in traffic, and she began to pray. But when she said, "Our Father," she meant it. She paused, and I could see into her heart too. She was thinking, "Abba, Daddy, Papa, you're my father. I'm your daughter. I have your DNA. I have your nature. I have full access to you because of what Jesus did. I'm not coming to you as a beggar. I'm coming as a beloved child who knows her Father delights in her." And her prayers, they shot up like lightning, like arrows, straight to the throne. And I saw the Father's response. I saw him lean forward with such love, such attention, such eagerness to answer his daughter's cry. That, Jesus said, pointing to the second vision, is the difference between praying from sonship and praying from orphan thinking. That is the difference between prayers that move heaven and prayers that bounce off the ceiling. The vision faded, and I was back on the hilltop, trembling, tears streaming down my frozen cheeks. "But it gets deeper," Jesus said, and he began walking again, this time along the ridge of the hill. I followed, struggling to keep up, my mind reeling from what I just witnessed. "When you pray, 'Who art in heaven,'" he continued, "you're not just stating a location. You're acknowledging a realm, a dimension, a reality that exists beyond what you can see with your physical eyes. Heaven isn't just a place you go when you die, Jonathan. It's a present reality. It's the realm where my Father's will is already done, where his purposes are already accomplished, where his provision already exists." The wind picked up, howling across the hilltop, and I had to lean into it to keep from being pushed backward. My eyes were watering from the cold and the wind, and my fingers were going numb despite being shoved deep in my pockets. "When you pray, 'Who art in heaven,' with understanding," Jesus said, raising his voice to be heard over the wind, "you're positioning yourself to pull heaven's reality into earth's circumstances. You're declaring that your Father operates from a place of unlimited resources, unlimited power, unlimited authority. You're reminding yourself that he's not bound by your limitations, your bank account, your diagnosis, your circumstances." He stopped and turned to face me again, and the intensity in his eyes was almost frightening. "But most Christians pray, 'Who art in heaven,' and they're actually creating distance between themselves and the Father. They're thinking, 'God is way up there in heaven, far away, distant, removed from my problems.' They're using it as an excuse for why their prayers aren't answered. Well, God is in heaven, and I'm down here, and who am I to expect him to really intervene in my life?" Another vision crashed over me, and this time I actually fell to my knees from the force of it. I saw a church, a large, prosperous church with beautiful buildings and programs and thousands of members, and I saw them praying the Lord's Prayer together, all in unison, their voices echoing through the sanctuary. But when they said, "Who art in heaven," I saw what was happening in the spiritual realm. A wall went up, a barrier. They were literally creating separation between themselves and God with their own words, with their own unbelief, with their own religious mindset that kept God at a safe distance. And I saw demons, actual demons, laughing, celebrating because they knew that as long as Christians kept God at arm's length, as long as they prayed from a place of distance instead of intimacy, their prayers would be powerless. "No," I groaned, still on my knees, my hands pressed against the frozen ground. "No, Lord, this can't be. This can't be what's happening." "But it is," Jesus said, and he knelt down beside me, placing his hand on my shoulder. "This is exactly what's happening in churches all across the world, every single day. Millions of my followers are praying prayers that create distance instead of intimacy. They're using my own words to keep themselves separated from the Father's power." He helped me to my feet, and I stood there shaking, not from the cold now, but from the weight of what I was seeing, what I was understanding. "And then," Jesus continued, his voice softer now, "there's hallowed be thy name." Do you know what that means, Jonathan? "Holy," I said, my voice hoarse. "Set apart. Revered." "Yes," he said, "but it's more than just acknowledging that God is holy. When you pray, 'Hallowed be thy name,' you're declaring that his name, his character, his nature, his reputation is to be honored above all else. You're surrendering your agenda to his glory. You're saying, 'Oh, Father, whatever brings you the most honor, whatever makes your name great, that's what I want.'" We began walking again, this time descending the hill on the far side. The terrain here was rougher, rockier, and I had to watch my footing carefully in the dim light. But here's what breaks my heart, Jesus said, and I could hear genuine pain in his voice. Most Christians pray, "Hallowed be thy name," and then immediately start telling God what they want him to do. They're not actually surrendering to his will. They're not actually seeking his glory. They're using religious language to dress up their own selfish desires. We reached a small clearing at the base of the hill, and Jesus stopped. He gestured for me to sit on a large, flat rock, and he sat beside me. The stone was ice cold through my jeans, but I barely noticed. I was too caught up in what he was teaching me. "Let me show you what it looks like to really pray, 'Hallowed be thy name,'" he said. This vision was different, gentler, more beautiful. I saw a man, older, weathered, clearly someone who had walked through deep suffering. He was alone in his home and he was praying. When he said, "Hallowed be thy name," he paused, and then he began to worship. "Father," he prayed, "your name is above every name. Your name is higher than cancer. Your name is greater than bankruptcy. Your name is more powerful than depression. And whatever happens in my life, whatever you choose to do or not do, your name will be glorified. Because you are worthy, you are holy, you are good, and I trust you." And I saw something incredible happen. I saw heaven respond. I saw angels being dispatched. I saw a breakthrough being released, not because the man had prayed the perfect words, but because he had prayed from a heart that truly wanted God's glory above his own comfort. "That," Jesus said quietly, "is the kind of prayer that moves my Father's heart. That's the kind of prayer that releases heaven's power. Not the rote repetition, not the mindless recitation, but the heartfelt surrender to his glory, his will, his name being hallowed above all else." I sat there in that clearing, on that frozen rock, under those blazing stars, and I wept. I wept for all the years I'd wasted praying empty prayers. I wept for all the Christians who were doing the same thing right now, tonight, all over the world. I wept for the breakthrough that was being blocked, the power that was being left untapped, the intimacy with the Father that was being forfeited, all because we'd turned a living prayer into a dead ritual. "Lord," I finally managed to say, "I've been one of them. I've been praying this prayer wrong my entire life. I thought I was honoring you by reciting the words you taught, but I was actually dishonoring you by not meaning them, by not praying them from my heart." Jesus put his arm around my shoulders, and I felt warmth flood through me despite the freezing temperature. "I know," he said gently, "but that's why I brought you here. That's why I'm showing you these things, because you're going to help others understand. You're going to help my people learn to really pray again." He stood, pulling me to my feet with him. "Tomorrow night," he said, "we're going to go even deeper. I'm going to show you what it means to pray, 'Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.' And Jonathan, what I'm going to reveal to you is going to shake you to your core, because most Christians are praying for God's kingdom to come while actively resisting his will in their lives." The wind died down suddenly, and in the stillness that followed, I could hear my own heartbeat, rapid and strong. "Can you handle more?" Jesus asked, searching my face. "Can you handle having everything you thought you knew about prayer completely dismantled and rebuilt?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Yes, Lord, whatever it takes. I want to pray the way you intended. I want to teach others to pray the way you intended. I don't care how uncomfortable it gets or how much it challenges me. I want the truth." He smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through storm clouds. "Then I'll see you tomorrow night, same place, same time. But prepare yourself, Jonathan. What I'm going to show you next is going to cost you something. It's going to require you to surrender things you've been holding on to. It's going to demand a level of honesty with yourself and with the Father that most Christians never reach." And then, just like the night before, he was gone. The presence lifted, the air returned to normal, and I was alone in that clearing with the stars and the cold and the profound sense that my life would never be the same. I made my way back through the valley slowly, my mind racing, my heart pounding. The frost was thicker now, coating everything in a layer of white that sparkled in the starlight. My breath came in great clouds, and my feet were numb from the cold, but I barely noticed. I was too consumed with what I'd learned, what I'd seen, what I'd experienced. Listen to me. If you're still watching this, if you've made it this far, you need to understand something. What Jesus is revealing through these encounters isn't just information, it's transformation. This isn't about learning a new prayer technique. This is about completely revolutionizing your relationship with the Father. And I know that some of you are uncomfortable right now. Some of you are thinking, "This is too much. This is too intense. This is challenging things I've believed my whole life." And you're right, it is. But the question you need to ask yourself is this: do you want comfort or do you want breakthrough? Do you want to keep praying prayers that go nowhere, or do you want to learn to pray prayers that move heaven? In the comments right now, I need you to type, I choose breakthrough, because that simple declaration is going to position you for what's coming in the next part. It's going to open your heart to receive the deeper revelations that Jesus wants to share. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because tomorrow night in part 3, things are going to get even more intense. Jesus is going to reveal the consequences of praying this prayer wrong. He's going to show me and you what's at stake. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be challenging, but it's going to be exactly what you need to hear. The prayer you've been praying your whole life is coming alive. Can you feel it? Can you sense the shift happening in your spirit? That's the Holy Spirit confirming that this message is for you, that you're marked, that you're chosen, that your breakthrough is coming, but you have to stay with me. You have to see this through to the end. The Valley of Judgment and Mercy. February 20th, 2026, at 2:38 a.m., I returned to the valley for the third night, and I knew before I even arrived that this encounter would be different. The sky itself seemed to know it. Dark clouds had rolled in, obscuring most of the stars, and the air was electric with the promise of a storm. The temperature had risen slightly to 41 degrees, but the humidity made it feel colder, more penetrating. The wind was fierce, gusting across the hills in waves, bending the grass flat and howling through the valley like a living thing. I had barely slept in the past 2 days. How could I? Everything I thought I knew about prayer had been turned upside down. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those visions, the prayers bouncing off the ceiling, the demons laughing, the wall of separation that Christians were building with their own words, and I knew, deep in my spirit, that tonight was going to be even more intense. The grass was wet, not from frost this time, but from a light rain that had fallen earlier in the evening. My boots squelched with each step, and I could smell the earth, rich, loamy, alive. Lightning flickered in the distance, silent for now, illuminating the rolling hills in brief, stark flashes of white light. Thunder would come eventually, I knew. The storm was building. I reached the ridge where Jesus had appeared the previous 2 nights, but this time I didn't stop there. Something was drawing me deeper into the valley, to a place I hadn't explored before. I followed that pull, that inner knowing, descending into the lowest part of the valley where the hills rose up on all sides like the walls of an amphitheater. And there, in that low place, surrounded by darkness and wind and the approaching storm, he appeared. But this time, his appearance was different. There was no gentle materialization, no gradual manifestation. One moment the valley was empty, and the next he was there, standing in the center of that natural amphitheater, and the power radiating from him was almost unbearable. The wind seemed to emanate from him, swirling around him, and when lightning flashed, I could see his face clearly, and what I saw there made my knees weak. Grief, anger, sorrow, love, all of it mixed together in an expression so intense, so raw, that I could barely look at him. "Jonathan," he said, and his voice was like thunder, like the wind, like the storm itself. "Are you ready to see what's really at stake? Are you ready to understand why I'm so passionate about my people learning to pray correctly?" I wanted to say yes. I wanted to be brave, but all I could manage was a nod, my throat too tight with fear and awe to speak. "Then watch," he said, raising his arms. "Watch and see what happens when my people pray the prayer I taught them without understanding, without faith, without Genshin surrender." The vision that crashed over me this time wasn't gentle. It wasn't gradual. It hit me like a physical force, and I actually fell to my hands and knees in the wet grass, gasping for breath. I saw the earth from above, as if I were hovering in space, and I could see prayer rising from every nation, every city, every town, millions upon millions of prayers ascending like smoke. But as I watched, I began to see the difference between the prayers. Some, a precious few, rose straight and true, like pillars of light reaching all the way to heaven. These were prayers prayed in faith and intimacy and true communion with the Father. They were prayers that moved God's heart, that released his power, that brought heaven to earth. But the vast majority, the overwhelming, heartbreaking majority, rose only a short distance before dissipating into nothing. These were the rote prayers, the religious prayers, the prayers prayed out of obligation rather than relationship. And among these, I saw millions of Lord's Prayers being prayed every single day, all over the world, in countless languages, and almost all of them were going nowhere. "Do you see?" Jesus asked, and his voice was breaking with emotion. "Do you see how much power is being wasted, how much breakthrough is being forfeited, How many miracles are being left on the table because my people have turned a living prayer into a dead ritual? The vision shifted, and now I was seeing specific people, specific situations. I saw a mother kneeling beside her daughter's hospital bed. The child was dying, and the mother was praying the Lord's Prayer through her tears, but she was just reciting words, going through the motions of what she'd been taught, not really believing, not really connecting with the Father. And I saw the answer to her prayer, the healing, the miracle, the breakthrough. It was right there, available, ready to be released. But it couldn't come because her prayer wasn't creating the connection, wasn't opening the channel, wasn't releasing the faith that would allow heaven to invade earth. No, I cried out, still on my hands and knees in the mud. No, Lord, please, that's not fair. She's suffering. Her child is dying. Why won't you heal her daughter? Jesus knelt beside me, and when he spoke, his voice was gentle but firm. Jonathan, I want to heal that child more than the mother does. The Father wants to release that miracle, but he's established laws, principles, ways that heaven and earth interact. Faith is the currency of the kingdom. Prayer is the connection point. And when my people pray powerless prayers, when they don't understand what they're doing, when they're just going through religious motions, they're blocking the very breakthrough they're begging for. He placed his hand on my back, and I felt strength flow into me, enabling me to sit up, to look at him through my tears. This is why I'm so passionate about this, he said. This is why I brought you here, why I'm showing you these things, because every single day, millions of my followers are praying prayers that could move mountains, but they're praying them wrong. They're using the words I gave them, but they're not praying with understanding. They're not praying with faith. They're not praying from a place of intimacy with the Father. Lightning flashed directly overhead, and the thunder that followed was immediate and deafening. The rain began then, not gradually, but all at once, a deluge that soaked through my clothes in seconds. But Jesus didn't move, and neither did I. We sat there in the mud, in the rain, in the storm, and he continued to teach me. Let me show you what it means to really pray, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done," he said, raising his voice to be heard over the rain and wind. Another vision, and this time I was ready for it, bracing myself for the impact. I saw two men, both facing similar crises. Both had lost their jobs, both were facing financial ruin, both were desperate for God's intervention. The first man prayed the Lord's Prayer, and when he got to "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done," he rushed through it, barely pausing, because what he really wanted to get to was, "Give us this day our daily bread." He wanted provision. He wanted his circumstances to change. He wanted God to fix his problem, but he didn't actually want God's kingdom to come into his life, because God's kingdom would require him to surrender control, to trust completely, to let go of his own plans and agendas. And I saw his prayer. It rose a few feet and fell back down. Nothing happened. No breakthrough came. He kept praying, kept begging, kept asking, but nothing changed because he was praying from a place of self-centeredness, not kingdom-centeredness. The second man also prayed the Lord's Prayer, but when he got to "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done," he stopped. He paused, and he really meant it. "Father," he prayed, "I want your kingdom to come into my life more than I want my circumstances to change. I want your will to be done more than I want my own comfort. If you want to provide for me through a new job, I receive that. But if you want to provide for me in some other way, I receive that too. If you want to use this crisis to teach me something, to refine me, to draw me closer to you, then I surrender to that. Your kingdom, your will, your glory, that's what I want most." And I saw heaven respond. I saw the Father lean forward on his throne. I saw angels being dispatched. I saw provision being released, not in the way the man expected, not through a new job, but through a series of supernatural events that not only met his needs, but brought him into a deeper relationship with God than he'd ever known. "Do you see the difference?" Jesus asked, and the rain was streaming down his face like tears. "Do you see what happens when someone really prays for God's kingdom to come, for his will to be done? It's not just words, it's surrender, it's trust, it's saying, 'Father, I want what you want more than I want what I want.'" I nodded, unable to speak, the rain mixing with my own tears. "But most Christians," Jesus continued, and now his voice took on an edge of righteous anger, "most Christians pray, 'Thy kingdom come,' while building their own kingdoms. They pray, 'Thy will be done,' while insisting on their own will. They use my words to dress up their selfish prayers, and then they wonder why heaven seems silent, why breakthrough seems impossible, why their faith feels dead." He stood, pulling me to my feet with him, and we stood there in the center of that valley, in the pouring rain, with lightning flashing all around us and thunder shaking the ground beneath our feet. And then he said, his voice rising to match the storm. There's on earth as it is in heaven. Do you know what that means, Jonathan? Do you understand what you're actually praying when you say those words? That that God's will would be done here like it is in heaven, I offered, shouting to be heard over the wind and rain. Yes, he shouted back. You're praying for heaven's reality to invade earth's circumstances. You're declaring that what's true in heaven, where there's no sickness, no poverty, no fear, no death, should become true here. You're positioning yourself as a conduit, a channel, through which heaven's power flows into earth's need. Another vision, and this one was so powerful, so overwhelming, that I fell to my knees again. I saw the church, not a building, but the global body of Christ, millions of believers all over the world. And I saw what would happen if they really understood this prayer, if they really prayed it with faith and understanding. I saw heaven's reality flooding into earth. I saw the sick being healed, the oppressed being freed, the lost being saved, the broken being restored. I saw families reconciled, addictions broken, depression lifted, poverty ended. I saw the kingdom of God advancing with unstoppable power, pushing back the darkness, reclaiming territory that had been lost. And then I saw what was actually happening. I saw millions of Christians praying on earth as it is in heaven while living in defeat, in bondage, and powerlessness. I saw them accepting circumstances that heaven would never accept. I saw them tolerating in their lives things that don't exist in heaven: sickness, poverty, fear, depression, because they didn't understand that they had the authority through prayer to bring heaven's reality into their situation. This is the tragedy, Jesus said, and he was weeping now, actual tears streaming down his face, mixing with the rain. This is what breaks my heart. I gave my people a prayer that could change the world. I gave them words that, when prayed with understanding and faith, could release heaven's power into any situation. But they've turned it into a ritual, a tradition, a religious obligation, and the world continues in darkness because my people don't know how to pray. He grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look directly into his eyes. And what I saw there, the passion, the desperation, the love, it undid me completely. Jonathan, I need you to understand something, he said, his face inches from mine. Every time one of my followers prays this prayer without meaning it, without understanding it, without faith, they're not just wasting words. They're forfeiting breakthrough. They're leaving miracles on the table. They're allowing the enemy to maintain ground that should be taken back. The stakes are higher than you can possibly imagine. Lightning struck somewhere nearby, so close I could smell the ozone, and the thunder was instantaneous and deafening. But Jesus didn't flinch, and neither did I. We were locked in that moment, in that encounter, and nothing else mattered. Show me the rest, I said, my voice hoarse from shouting over the storm. Show me what it means to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, and lead us not into temptation." Show me all of it, Lord. I need to understand all of it. He released my shoulders and stepped back, and for a moment he just looked at me, as if weighing whether I could handle what he was about to reveal. "Give us this day our daily bread," he finally said, "is not just about physical provision, though it includes that. It's about dependence. It's about trusting the Father for today's needs without anxiety about tomorrow. It's about living in the present moment, in present tense faith, believing that the Father who feeds the birds and clothes the flowers will certainly take care of his children." The rain began to ease slightly, and I could hear him more clearly now. But most Christians pray, "Give us this day our daily bread," while hoarding, while anxious, while trusting in their bank accounts and their retirement plans more than they trust in the Father. They say the words, but they don't live the reality. They're not actually depending on God daily. They're depending on themselves and asking God to bless their self-sufficiency. Another flash of vision, briefer this time, but no less powerful. I saw a man with a full pantry, a full bank account, a secure job, praying, "Give us this day our daily bread," out of habit, not out of genuine dependence on God. His prayer was empty because he didn't actually need God's provision, or at least he didn't think he did. And then I saw a woman with nothing, no food, no money, no resources, praying the same words, but she meant them. She was genuinely depending on God for that day's provision, and I saw the Father respond immediately, moving people and circumstances to meet her need in ways that could only be explained as miraculous. Daily bread isn't just about food, Jesus said. It's about everything you need for today: strength, wisdom, peace, provision. And when you pray for it with genuine dependence, with real faith, the Father delights in providing it. But when you pray it as a ritual, while trusting in your own resources, you're blocking the very provision you're asking for. The storm was passing now, the rain slowing to a drizzle, the thunder growing more distant, but the intensity of the encounter hadn't diminished at all. "And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors," Jesus continued, his voice softer now but no less powerful. This is where most Christians completely miss it. They pray for forgiveness while harboring unforgiveness. They ask the Father to forgive them while refusing to forgive others. And they don't understand that they're actually blocking their own forgiveness, their own breakthrough, their own answered prayers. He quoted his own words, "If you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." I said that, I meant it. And yet millions of my followers pray this prayer every day while holding grudges, nursing bitterness, refusing to forgive. And then they wonder why their prayers aren't answered, why they feel distant from God, why breakthrough never comes. I thought of my own life, my own unforgiveness, the grudges I'd been holding, the bitterness I'd been nursing, and I felt the weight of it, the way it had been blocking my own prayers, my own intimacy with the Father. "Lord," I whispered, "I've been doing that. I've been praying for forgiveness while refusing to forgive. I've been blocking my own breakthrough." "I know," he said gently, "but that's why I'm showing you these things, so you can repent, so you can change, so you can start praying this prayer the way I intended." The rain had stopped completely now, and the clouds were beginning to break apart, revealing patches of stars. The air smelled clean, washed, renewed. "And finally," Jesus said, "lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." This is a prayer for protection, for guidance, for deliverance. It's acknowledging that you can't navigate this life on your own, that you need the Father's leading, His protection, His deliverance from the enemy's schemes. He paused, looking up at the clearing sky. But most Christians pray these words while walking straight into temptation. They ask for deliverance while entertaining the very things that enslave them. They want protection while refusing to follow the Father's guidance. And again, they're praying powerless prayers because their lives don't align with their words. One final vision, and this one was different from all the others. This one was hopeful, beautiful, powerful. I saw a church, not a building, but a gathering of believers, and they were praying the Lord's Prayer together. But they weren't just reciting it, they were really praying it. Each phrase was a doorway into deeper communion with the Father. Each line was prayed with understanding, with faith, with genuine surrender. And I saw heaven respond. I saw the Father's presence fill that place. I saw miracles being released. I saw people being healed, delivered, transformed. I saw the kingdom of God advancing with power, because God's people had finally learned to pray the way Jesus intended. "That," Jesus said, and his voice was filled with hope, with longing, with expectation, "is what I want for my church. That's what I'm calling my people back to, not dead religion, not empty ritual, but living, powerful, transformative prayer that brings heaven to earth." The clouds had cleared completely now, and the stars were blazing overhead, brighter than ever, as if they'd been washed clean by the storm. The air was crisp and cold, and I could see my breath again, but I barely noticed. I was too overwhelmed by everything I'd seen, everything I'd learned, everything that had been revealed. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder one more time. "Tomorrow night," he said, "we'll meet one final time, and I'm going to give you the practical application. I'm going to show you exactly how to pray this prayer the way I intended. I'm going to give you a challenge that, if you accept it, will revolutionize your prayer life and your relationship with the Father." He looked directly at me, and then, I knew, directly at everyone who would watch this video. "But I'm warning you now, this challenge is going to cost you something. It's going to require time, discipline, commitment. Not everyone will accept it. Not everyone will follow through. But those who do, those who really commit to praying this prayer correctly for the next 30 days, they're going to experience breakthrough like they've never known." And then he was gone, and I was alone in that valley under the stars, soaked to the bone, covered in mud, trembling with cold and awe and the weight of what I'd witnessed. I stood there for a long time, looking up at those stars, thinking about everything I'd seen, the prayers that go nowhere, the breakthrough that's being forfeited, the power that's being left untapped, the miracles that are available but not being accessed because God's people don't know how to pray. And I made a decision right there in that valley under those stars. I decided that I would never pray the Lord's Prayer the same way again. I decided that I would learn to really pray it, to mean every word, to let each phrase transform me and connect me more deeply with the Father. and I decided that I would share this message, no matter how uncomfortable it made people, no matter how much it challenged religious traditions, no matter what it cost me personally, because the stakes are too high, the need is too great, and the time is too short. Listen to me. If you're still watching this, if you've made it through all three parts, you're marked, you're chosen. This message is for you. And tomorrow night, in the final part, everything comes together. Jesus is going to give you the practical application. He's going to show you exactly how to pray this prayer correctly, and he's going to issue a challenge that could change your life forever. But I need you to do something right now. In the comments, I need you to type, "I'm ready for the challenge," because that declaration is going to position you to receive what's coming. It's going to prepare your heart for the transformation that's about to take place. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because you don't want to miss the final part. You don't want to miss the practical application, the specific steps, the challenge that's going to revolutionize your prayer life, the valley of transformation and commissioning. The prayer you've been praying your whole life is about to become the most powerful weapon in your spiritual arsenal. Are you ready? February 21st, 2026, at 2:35 a.m., I made my way back to the valley for what I knew would be the final encounter, and everything felt different. The storm had passed completely, leaving the air impossibly clear and crisp. The temperature dropped back down to 34 degrees. But more than the physical atmosphere had changed, I had changed. The past 3 nights had stripped away layers of religious pretense, of comfortable tradition, of powerless prayer habits that I'd carried for decades. The valley looked different too, washed clean by the storm. The grass sparkled with moisture that caught the starlight, and the earth smelled rich and alive. The sky was so clear that I could see the Milky Way stretching from horizon to horizon, and the moon, now a thicker crescent than before, cast enough light to see the rolling hills in sharp detail. My boots were still caked with mud from the night before, and I hadn't bothered to clean them. Somehow it felt appropriate to carry the evidence of that encounter with me, a reminder of what I'd witnessed, what I'd learned, what had been revealed. I walked slowly this time, not rushing, taking in every detail of the landscape, because I knew that after tonight, I would never see this valley the same way again. It had become sacred ground, a place where heaven had touched earth, where Jesus had met me in my desperation and hunger and had transformed everything I thought I knew about prayer. I made my way to the center of the valley, to that low place surrounded by hills where the storm had raged the night before. The ground was still soft, still muddy, and I could see the impressions where I had knelt, where I had fallen, where I had been undone by the visions Jesus had shown me. And I waited. The silence was profound. No wind tonight, no distant thunder, just the occasional hoot of an owl, the rustle of some small creature in the grass, and the sound of my own breathing, steady and expectant. "Lord," I whispered into the stillness, "I'm here. I'm ready. Show me what you want me to do with everything you've revealed." For several minutes, nothing. Just me and the stars and the valley and the waiting. But I didn't grow impatient. I had learned over the past 3 nights that his timing was perfect, that the waiting was part of the preparation, that the silence was teaching me something important about prayer itself. And then, gently, gradually, like dawn breaking over the eastern hills, he appeared. But this time, his appearance was different from all the previous nights. There was no drama, no sudden manifestation, no overwhelming display of power. He simply walked toward me from the far side of the valley, his feet leaving prints in the wet grass, his form solid and real and somehow more human than he'd seemed before. When he reached me, he smiled, a warm, genuine smile that reached his eyes, and he embraced me, actually embraced me, pulling me into a hug that felt like coming home, like being welcomed by a father after a long absence, like being accepted and loved and valued beyond measure. "You did well," he said softly, his voice right next to my ear. "You stayed. You listened. You allowed yourself to be challenged and changed. Not everyone would have done that, Jonathan." When he released me, I saw that his eyes were bright with joy, with pride, with affection. The grief and anger I'd seen the night before were gone, replaced by hope and anticipation. "Tonight," he said, gesturing for me to sit on the same flat rock where we'd sat 2 nights before, "I'm going to give you the practical application. I'm going to show you exactly how to pray the prayer I taught, the way I intended it to be prayed, and then I'm going to give you and everyone watching this a challenge that will change everything. He sat beside me close enough that our shoulders were touching, and he looked up at the stars for a long moment before speaking. The Lord's Prayer, he began, was never meant to be recited in 30 seconds. It was never meant to be rushed through as a religious obligation. Each phrase is a doorway, Jonathan. Each line is an invitation to go deeper, to linger, to commune with the Father in a way that transforms you and releases heaven's power. He turned to look at me. So here's what I want you to do. Here's what I want everyone who's watching this to do. For the next 30 days, starting tonight, starting right now, I want you to pray this prayer the way I'm about to show you. Not once, but as a daily practice. And I promise you, if you do this faithfully, if you really commit to it, your prayer life will never be the same. I pulled out my phone, opening the Notes app, my fingers trembling slightly as I prepared to record what he was about to say. First, Jesus said, find a place where you can be alone and undistracted, not in your car while driving, not while scrolling through your phone, not with the TV on in the background, a place where you can really focus, really connect, really pray. It might be a room in your house, it might be outside in nature, it might be your closet like I taught in Matthew 6, but it needs to be a place where you can shut out the noise and distractions of the world. He paused, making sure I was getting this down. Second, set aside 30 minutes, not 5 minutes, not the time it takes to recite the prayer once, 30 full minutes. I know that sounds like a lot. I know most Christians don't pray for 30 minutes a day, but that's exactly why their prayer lives are powerless. You can't develop intimacy with the Father in 5-minute bursts. You can't experience breakthrough with rushed, distracted prayers. You need time. You need space. You need to linger. I was typing as fast as I could, capturing every word. Now here's how you pray it, he continued, and his voice took on a teaching quality, patient and clear. You start with Our Father, but you don't just say it and move on. You stop there, you meditate on it, you declare it, you let it sink into your spirit. He demonstrated, his voice becoming a model of how to pray. Our Father, Abba, Daddy, Papa, you're my Father, I'm your child. I have your DNA, I have your nature. I have full access to you because of what Jesus did on the cross. I'm not coming to you as a beggar. I'm not coming as a stranger. I'm coming as a beloved son, as a beloved daughter, and I know you delight in me. I know you're leaning forward right now, eager to hear what I have to say, ready to respond to my prayers. He looked at me. Do you see, you're not just reciting words. You're declaring truth. You're reminding yourself of your identity. You're positioning yourself in sonship, not orphan thinking, and you stay there, in that phrase, until you really feel it, until it's real to you, until you sense the Father's presence and his delight in you. I nodded, my throat tight with emotion, because I could already feel the difference, could already sense how powerful this way of praying would be. Then, Jesus continued, you move to who art in heaven. And again, you don't rush, you stop and meditate. Father, you're in heaven. You're not limited by my circumstances. You're not bound by my bank account or my diagnosis or my problems. You operate from a place of unlimited resources, unlimited power, unlimited authority. Heaven is where your will is already done, where your purposes are already accomplished, where my breakthrough already exists, and I'm positioning myself right now to pull heaven's reality into my earthly circumstances. He stood and began to pace slowly, his hands gesturing as he taught. You see, Jonathan, when you pray this way, you're not just saying words, you're actually shifting your perspective. You're lifting your eyes from your problems to the Father's power. You're reminding yourself that he's bigger than whatever you're facing. Then comes, hallowed be thy name, he said, and his voice became reverent. This is where you worship. This is where you surrender. Father, your name is above every name. Your name is higher than cancer, greater than bankruptcy, more powerful than depression, stronger than addiction. And whatever happens in my life, whatever you choose to do or not do, your name will be glorified. Because you are worthy, you are holy, you are good, and I trust you. I surrender my agenda to your glory. I want what brings you the most honor, what makes your name great, what advances your kingdom. He stopped pacing and looked directly at me. And you stay there, in that place of worship and surrender, until it's real, until you really mean it, until you've truly laid down your own agenda and embraced his. The moon had moved across the sky, and its light was now illuminating Jesus' face from a different angle, making his features seem to glow. Next, he said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. This is the heart of the prayer, Jonathan. This is where you're actually releasing heaven's power into earth's circumstances. So you pray, Father, I want your kingdom to come into my life, into my family, into my workplace, into my city, into my nation. I want your will to be done in my situation, not my will, but yours. And I declare right now that what's true in heaven is going to become true here. In heaven, there's no sickness, so I declare healing over my body. In heaven, there's no poverty, so I declare provision over my finances. In heaven, there's no fear, so I declare peace over my mind. In heaven, there's no bondage, so I declare freedom over my addictions. He raised his hands toward the sky. You're not just asking, Jonathan. You're declaring. You're exercising the authority I gave you. You're partnering with heaven to bring its reality to earth. And you stay there, declaring, believing, seeing with the eyes of faith what heaven wants to release, until you sense the breakthrough beginning to manifest. I was weeping now, unable to hold back the tears, because I could see it. I could see how powerful this way of praying was, how different it was from the empty recitation I'd been doing for years. Then, Jesus continued, his own voice thick with emotion, "Give us this day our daily bread." And you get specific. You tell the Father exactly what you need for today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Father, today I need strength. Today I need wisdom for this decision. Today I need provision for this bill. Today I need peace in the midst of this storm. Today I need healing for this pain. Today I need breakthrough in this situation. And you pray from a place of genuine dependence, really trusting that the Father who feeds the birds and clothes the flowers will certainly take care of you. He sat back down beside me, and I could feel the warmth radiating from him despite the cold night air. "Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors," he said softly. "This is where you get honest. This is where you confess. Father, I've sinned. I've fallen short. I've failed. I've done things I shouldn't have done and left undone things I should have done. Forgive me. Cleanse me. Restore me." And then, and this is crucial, Jonathan, you forgive. You name the people who have hurt you, who have wronged you, who have betrayed you, and you release them. You let go of the bitterness, the resentment, the desire for revenge. You forgive them the same way the Father has forgiven you. He looked at me intently. And you stay there until you've really forgiven, until you've really let it go. Because if you don't, you're blocking your own breakthrough. You're hindering your own prayers. You're creating a barrier between yourself and the Father. I thought of specific people in my own life, people I needed to forgive, and I felt the Holy Spirit prompting me to deal with that unforgiveness, to really release it. And finally, Jesus said, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." You pray for protection, for guidance, for deliverance. Father, lead me today. Guide my steps. Protect me from the enemy's schemes. Deliver me from the temptations that would pull me away from you. Give me the strength to resist, the wisdom to avoid, the power to overcome. And I put on the full armor of God right now, the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of the gospel of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit. He stood again, pulling me to my feet with him. And then you end the way I taught. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. You're declaring that everything belongs to him, that all power is his, that all glory goes to him, and you seal your prayer with that declaration of his sovereignty and your submission to it. We stood there together in the center of that valley, and I felt something shift in the atmosphere, something powerful and profound. "Now," Jesus said, and his voice became more urgent, more intense, "here's the challenge. For the next 30 days, from tonight, February 21st, until March 23rd, 2026, I want you to pray this prayer the way I just showed you. Every single day, 30 minutes, no excuses, no shortcuts, no skipping days because you're busy or tired or distracted." He gripped my shoulders, and I promise you, Jonathan, I promise everyone who accepts this challenge, if you do this faithfully, if you really commit to it, you will experience breakthrough. Your prayer life will be transformed. Your intimacy with the Father will deepen, answers will come, miracles will manifest, things that have been blocked for years will suddenly break open. He released me and stepped back. But I'm warning you, the enemy is going to fight this. He's going to throw every distraction, every obstacle, every excuse at you to keep you from following through, because he knows that if God's people learn to really pray, his kingdom is in trouble. If Christians start praying with understanding and faith and power, the gates of hell won't be able to stand against the church. A vision came then, one final vision, and it was glorious. I saw millions of believers all over the world accepting this challenge. I saw them in their homes, in their closets, in their cars, parked in quiet places, in parks and forests and mountains, all of them praying the Lord's Prayer the way Jesus had just taught, really praying it, meaning every word, lingering over every phrase. And I saw heaven respond. I saw the Father's presence flooding the earth. I saw miracles being released on a scale I'd never imagined. I saw the sick healed, the oppressed freed, the lost saved, the broken restored. I saw families reconciled, addictions broken, depression lifted, poverty ended. I saw the kingdom of God advancing with unstoppable power, pushing back the darkness, reclaiming territory that had been lost for generations. And I saw Jesus, standing at the right hand of the Father, interceding, advocating, releasing heaven's power in response to the prayers of his people, who had finally learned to pray the way he intended. That, Jesus said, and his voice was ringing with authority and hope, is what's possible. That's what I'm calling my church to. That's the breakthrough that's available if my people will simply learn to pray. The vision faded, and I was back in the valley, standing face to face with Jesus under the stars. "Will you accept the challenge?" he asked. "Will you commit to 30 days of praying this way? Will you help others understand what I've shown you?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Yes, Lord, I'll do it. I'll pray this way every day for the next 30 days, and I'll share this message with everyone who will listen." He smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Good, because you're not just doing this for yourself, Jonathan. You're doing it for everyone who's going to watch this video. You're modeling what it looks like to take this seriously, to really commit, to follow through even when it's hard." He began to walk away, back toward the far side of the valley, but then he stopped and turned back. "One more thing," he said. "I want you to tell everyone watching, that I'm going to meet them in their prayer time. When they pray this way, when they really mean it, when they linger over each phrase and commune with the Father, I'll be there. The Holy Spirit will be there. The Father will be there. They won't be praying into empty air. They'll be entering into the throne room of heaven, into the presence of the living God." He paused, and his eyes swept across the valley, as if he could see through time and space to everyone who would eventually watch this video. "And tell them this," he said, his voice soft, but carrying clearly across the distance between us. "Tell them that I love them. Tell them that I'm proud of them for making it this far, for being willing to have their comfortable traditions challenged, for being hungry enough for more to stick with this message even when it got uncomfortable. Tell them that they're marked, they're chosen, they're part of the remnant that's going to usher in the next great move of God." And then he was gone, fading into the pre-dawn light that was just beginning to touch the eastern horizon. I stood there alone as the sun began to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold and orange, illuminating the valley in a way I'd never seen it before. The hills rolled away in every direction, and I could see for miles, and everything looked new, washed clean, full of possibility. I pulled out my phone and checked the time, 4:47 a.m. I had been in that valley for over 2 hours, but it had felt like minutes. Time had become irrelevant in the presence of Jesus, in the midst of that encounter, in the receiving of that revelation. I made my way slowly back toward home, but I kept stopping to look back at the valley, to memorize every detail, to hold on to the feeling of what had happened there, because I knew that place would always be sacred to me now, would always remind me of the nights when Jesus met me and transformed my understanding of prayer. When I finally got home, I didn't go to bed. I couldn't. I was too energized, too transformed, too full of what I'd received. Instead, I went to my prayer room, and I began to pray the Lord's Prayer the way Jesus had taught me. And it was different, completely different. It wasn't a ritual, it wasn't an obligation, it was a conversation, it was communion. It was intimacy with the Father that I'd never experienced before. I prayed for the full 30 minutes, and when I finished, I knew with absolute certainty that my life would never be the same, that my prayer life would never be the same, that my relationship with the Father would never be the same. And now, I'm passing this on to you. Listen to me. If you've made it through all 4 parts of this series, if you've stuck with me through the challenging revelations and the uncomfortable truths and the dismantling of religious traditions, you're marked, you're chosen. This message was meant for you, and now you have a decision to make. You can watch this video, be inspired for a moment, and then go back to praying the way you've always prayed. You can let this message fade into the background of your life, just another piece of content you consumed and forgot. Or you can accept the challenge. You can commit right here, right now, to 30 days of praying the Lord's Prayer the way Jesus taught me to pray it, 30 minutes a day, every day, no excuses, no shortcuts, really praying, really meaning it, really communing with the Father. And if you really commit to this, I promise you, based on what Jesus showed me, you will experience breakthrough. Your prayer life will be transformed. Your intimacy with the Father will deepen. Answers will come. Miracles will manifest. Things that have been blocked for years will suddenly break open. But you have to decide now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. In the comments below, I need you to type, "I accept the 30-day challenge." That simple declaration is going to seal your commitment. It's going to position you for breakthrough. It's going to alert heaven that you're serious, that you're hungry, that you're ready for more. And then I need you to actually do it. Starting tonight or this morning, whenever you're watching this, set aside 30 minutes. Find a quiet place and pray the Lord's Prayer the way I showed you. Really pray it. Linger over each phrase, mean every word, commune with the Father. Do it tomorrow, do it the next day, do it every single day for the next 30 days. And here's what I want you to do. Come back to this video every few days and leave a comment about what's happening. Tell me about the breakthrough you're experiencing. Tell me about the answers that are coming. Tell me about how your prayer life is being transformed. Because your testimony is going to encourage others. Your breakthrough is going to inspire others to take the challenge seriously. Now, I know some of you are thinking, 30 minutes is too long. I don't have that kind of time. I'm too busy. Let me be blunt, that's a lie from the enemy. You have time for whatever you prioritize. You have time to scroll through social media. You have time to watch TV. You have time to do 100 other things that don't matter. You can find 30 minutes to pray if you really want breakthrough. And if you can't find 30 minutes in your day, then you need to ask yourself, how badly do I really want to experience God's power? How desperate am I for breakthrough? How hungry am I for more? Because here's the truth. The level of your desperation will determine the level of your breakthrough. If you're content with powerless prayers and a distant relationship with God, then you won't make the time. But if you're desperate for more, if you're hungry for breakthrough, if you're tired of going through the motions of religion while your life stays the same, you'll find the time. You'll make the time. You'll prioritize it above everything else. Now, let me address something else. Some of you are watching this and thinking, this is too intense. This is too challenging. This is making me uncomfortable. Good. That means it's working. That means the Holy Spirit is convicting you. That means you're being confronted with the gap between where you are and where God wants you to be. Don't run from that discomfort. Lean into it. Let it drive you to your knees. Let it push you into that 30-minute prayer time. Let it transform you. Because on the other side of that discomfort is breakthrough. On the other side of that challenge is intimacy with the Father that you've never known. On the other side of those 30 days is a prayer life that actually moves heaven. And let me tell you what's going to happen if you don't accept this challenge. If you watch this video and then go back to praying the way you've always prayed, nothing will change. Your prayer life will stay powerless. Your breakthrough will stay blocked. Your intimacy with the Father will stay shallow. And 6 months from now, a year from now, you'll still be in the same place, still struggling with the same issues, still wondering why your prayers aren't answered, still feeling distant from God. Is that what you want? Is that the life you're willing to settle for? Or do you want more? Do you want breakthrough? Do you want intimacy with the Father? Do you want prayers that actually move heaven? Then accept the challenge. Commit to the 30 days and watch what God does. Now, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about earning God's favor. This isn't about works-based righteousness. This isn't about trying to manipulate God into answering your prayers. This is about positioning yourself to receive what God already wants to give you. This is about removing the barriers that have been blocking your breakthrough. This is about learning to pray in a way that aligns with how heaven operates. God wants to answer your prayers. The Father wants to give you good gifts. Jesus wants to release breakthrough in your life. But there are principles, there are ways that heaven and earth interact. And when you pray according to those principles, when you pray with understanding and faith and intimacy, you position yourself to receive what's already available. That's what these 30 days are about. Learning to pray in a way that releases heaven's power, developing intimacy with the Father that transforms everything, building a prayer life that actually works. And here's what I believe is going to happen. I believe that as thousands of people accept this challenge, as thousands of believers all over the world start praying the Lord's Prayer the way Jesus intended, we're going to see a wave of breakthrough like we've never seen before. I believe we're going to see miracles, healings, deliverances, salvations, restorations, provisions, answers to prayers that people have been praying for years. I believe we're going to see families reconciled, addictions broken, depression lifted, diseases healed, finances restored, prodigals coming home. I believe we're going to see the kingdom of God advancing with power because God's people have finally learned to pray. And I believe that you, yes, you, the person watching this right now, are going to be part of that wave. You're going to experience breakthrough. You're going to see answers. You're going to witness miracles in your own life, but only if you accept the challenge, only if you commit to the 30 days, only if you follow through. So here's what I want you to do right now. Before you do anything else, before you click away from this video, before you get distracted by something else, I want you to make the commitment. Type in the comments, I accept the 30-day challenge, and then I want you to set a reminder on your phone right now. Set it for the same time every day for the next 30 days. Make it your prayer time. Protect it. Guard it. Don't let anything interfere with it. And then I want you to share this video. Share it with your family. Share it with your friends. Share it with your church. Share it with everyone you know who needs breakthrough, who's struggling with powerless prayers, who's hungry for more of God. Because this message isn't just for you, it's for everyone who's been marked, everyone who's been chosen, everyone who's part of the remnant that God is raising up in these last days. And finally, I want you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because this isn't the last time Jesus is going to meet me in the wilderness. This isn't the last revelation he's going to share, and you need to be here for all of it. You need to be part of this movement of believers who are learning to pray with power, who are experiencing breakthrough, who are seeing the kingdom of God advance in their lives and in the world around them. The deadline is March 23rd, 2026. That's 30 days from when I received this revelation. That's your window. That's your opportunity. After that, I don't know what happens. I don't know if this same level of breakthrough will be available. I don't know if this same grace will be extended. All I know is that Jesus gave me a specific time frame, and I'm passing it on to you. 30 days, starting now. Are you in? I'm praying for you. I'm believing for you. I'm expecting to hear testimonies of breakthrough, of miracles, of answered prayers, of transformed lives, because the prayer you've been praying your whole life is about to become the most powerful weapon in your spiritual arsenal. The Lord's Prayer, prayed the way Jesus intended, is going to change everything. God bless you. I'll see you in the comments. I'll see you in the testimonies. I'll see you on the other side of your breakthrough. Now go pray.